All right, I can already tell that this is going to be the most fun side. Look at all these word problems, you guys. So I know these are not your favorite, but this is what we probably need the most practice on. So just, you know, focused, pay attention, um, all the good things. So number 7 says the sum of three consecutive integers is 177. What are the integers? So one of the standards we're working on in this first unit is to be able to read a sentence like this and create an equation that represents that situation and then solve the equation. There are other ways to get the answer here. Like you could do a little math trickery and come up with the correct answer. That's great. That's a different skill. The skill for this unit is reading something like this, coming up with an equation with a variable and solving for that variable. So that's going to be our approach. That's going to be the approach that gets you full credit on a test. All right, so let's just look at what it's saying. It says the sum. So sum means adding together. So we're going to add together three consecutive integers. And then that sum is 177. So I'm a visual person. The way that I would kind of structure my equation is we're going to add together 1, 2, 3 integers that will equal 177. All right, so consecutive integers means that they will go one right after the other, right after the other. So for example, 2, 3, 4, those are consecutive integers. If you notice, we start with 2, we add 1 to get 3, we add 1 to get 4. Or if we start with 2, we add 1 to get 3, and then we go back to the 2 and we add 2 to get to the 4. So when you have a problem like this, we don't know what that first number is. But if we knew where we were starting, we could just add and add to get our other integers. So because we don't know the start, the first integer, we're going to represent that with an x. So whatever our first integer is, it's going to be x. Now to get the number right after that, so like if it was a 2, how do we get to the 3? Well, we take that first number and we just add 1 to it. That gets us the next consecutive integer. Now, because we're focused on using an x right here, and x is the first number, how do we get to the third? Well, we would add 1 to get here, but then I would have to add 1 and add 1 again to get that third number. So this is going to be an x. Instead of plus 1, it's going to be plus 2. Because if you notice, this 4 is 2 more than the starting point. And this x represents the first integer. All right, so to solve this equation, we'll just add like terms. We have x plus x plus x, that's 3x. And then we've got this 1 plus 2, which is 3. So 3x plus 3 equals 177. And then we just solve for x. We're going to subtract 3 from both sides. We get 3x equals 174. And then we will divide both sides by 3, and x is 58. So have we answered the question? Did we find the three consecutive integers? No, we just found the first one. We know what this one is right here. This is a 58. So we know this is 58. Now, if I know it's three consecutive, and it's going to be 58, 59, 60. I can just list them if I know which one to start with. But you also can plug it in. If x is a 58, here we have 58 plus 1, which is 59. And here we have 58 plus 2, which is 60. So what are the integers? 58, 59, and 60. All right, number 8. There are 12 water bottles in Devin's refrigerator. He adds 4 full boxes of water bottles to the refrigerator. Then he adds 3 more boxes that each has 2 fewer bottles than a full box. When he is done, there are 90 bottles in the refrigerator. Write and solve an equation to find the number of bottles in a full box. So this is very wordy. What we want to do is just kind of think through what we know, what the structure of our equation will be. Kind of like up here, we knew we were adding together three things to get 177. So for this example, it's going to be helpful for us to figure out what they want us to solve for. What question are we trying to answer? That's a good way to figure out what your variable will represent. So it says write and solve an equation to find the number of bottles in a full box. So let's let X represent the number of bottles in a full box. That's what we're trying to figure out. Okay, so what do we know? We know that there are 12 water bottles in Devin's refrigerator. So these are just kind of loose. We've got 12 water bottles. Then he's putting in 4 full boxes. We don't know how many water bottles are in each box. That's what we're letting X represent. Then he adds 3 more boxes that each has 2 fewer bottles than a full box. When he's done, there are 90 bottles in the refrigerator. So it kind of, if I were to structure this, he's adding together. We keep putting in more water bottles into the refrigerator. So we've got what was already in the refrigerator plus, so that's our 12 water bottles. Then he adds 4 full boxes. So I want to talk about that. And then he adds 3 more boxes that each has 2 fewer bottles than a full box. So whatever that looks like, and that's going to equal, when he's done, there are 90 bottles. All right, so first we said that he's putting in 12 water bottles. So we've got 12. Then he's adding 4 full boxes. So remember, X is the number of boxes in a full box. So if he's adding 4 of them, we're just going to take 4 times X, however many bottles are in that box. So this is going to be 4 times all the bottles that are in that box. Now here's where it gets a little bit tricky and it gets super wordy. Then he adds 3 more boxes. So he's adding 3 boxes that each has 2 fewer bottles than a full box. So he's adding 3 boxes, but if I just say 3x, those are full bottles, but it's not full bottles. Each box has 2 fewer bottles. So what that's going to look like is 3 times a full box minus 2 bottles. So here's a full box minus 2 bottles. And how many of these does he have? He just put 3 of those into the refrigerator. Okay, now we have an equation. We can solve this. I see that we have a parenthesis right here. So let's start with distributing. I'm going to go ahead and carry down. We have 12 plus 4x. Positive 3 times positive x is a positive 3x. Positive 3 times negative 2 is a negative 6 equals 90. We're not going to cross our equal sign until we combine all our like terms over here. So let's start with those x's. 4x plus 3x is 7x. And then we have a 12 minus 6. 12 minus 6 is a positive 6. And that equals 90. All right, now we're just going to solve for x. We got this down to a 2-step equation, and we love our 2-step equations. We're just going to subtract 6 from both sides. I will carry this work over here. So 7x equals 90 minus 6 is 84. Divide both sides by 7. 84 divided by 7 is 12. So x equals 12. Great, x equals 12. What did we just figure out? Well, here we said what x was representing, the number of bottles in a full box. So there are 12 bottles in a full box. So you could write out that sentence. There are 12 bottles in a full box. You, at the very least, want to include a label. So when we say x equals 12, we're talking 12 bottles. I'm just going to leave it at that, but you could write out a full sentence and be even more thorough. It says, write and solve an equation we did to find the number of bottles in a full box. There are 12 bottles in a full box. All right, number 9. In a game experience, the level monsters L is measured by the formula L equals 250m divided by E, where m equals the number of monsters and E equals the experience of the monsters. Solve the formula for E. Well, I'll tell you, I have no idea what this problem is talking about. You guys might see examples similar to this where you're just like, what? I don't even know. But I can answer the question without understanding what is going on with all these monsters and a level and experience and number, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. But when it says solve the formula for E, I'm going to take this formula and solve that for E. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite that. We have L equals 250m divided by E. Oh, that's it. L equals 250m divided by E. So when you guys have to solve for a variable, this is one of those literal equations where you have multiple variables in a formula or an equation. You want to first identify, what are we solving for? Find it in the formula. Here it is right here. What makes this one a little tricky is E is in the denominator of a fraction. We can't solve for E when it's in this denominator, so we have to fix this. What we can notice is this 250m is being divided by E. When we solve this equation, we focus on the operations and not on the fact that there are E's, M's, L's, and 250s. I see that we're dividing by E. The opposite operation, or the inverse operation to dividing by E, is to multiply by E. I'm going to multiply both sides. Whatever I do on one side, we have to do on the other side. When we multiplied by E on the right, this E divides with that E, reducing to 1, and now our E is no longer in the denominator of that fraction. So that's kind of the first thing. You want to get yourself out of fractions if you can, if there's a fraction involved. So I'm going to rewrite. We have E times L, which is just EL, is equal to 250m. All right, so now let's, keep our eye on the price here. We are solving for E. What are we doing to the E? It is being multiplied by an L. So anytime that you guys have multiplication, what's the opposite or inverse operation to multiplying by L? That's going to be dividing. So we're going to divide by L. Divide by L. L divided by L is 1. And look at that, we got our E alone. So E is equal to 250 times M divided by L. I don't know what any of this means, but I was asked to solve for E and I got E alone. And so we have completed our task. We have solved for E. So with these problems, again, it's really all about the operations within an equation. It doesn't matter if they're numbers or variables, we still solve them the same way, focusing on the operations. All right, so number 10, we're going to get a little more practice with this. We've got a formula. We'll solve the formula for F. D equals 1/5 F times K. I don't know what this is a formula for, but I'm not asked to explain it. I'm just asked to solve it for F. So if I look at the equation, here's F right here. So do you guys see this 1/5? That's going to cause a problem for us. We want to take care of that fraction in our first step, similar to what we did up here. We took care of that dividing by E, we multiplied by E. This fraction, however, we have an equation with this 1/5. We can multiply both sides of our equation by that denominator of 5. When we do that, 5 times D is 5D. When we multiply 5 to this term, this is all one term, by the way, this 1/5 FK. So the 5 really only multiplies to the 1/5, and that FK will just carry down with that. So 5 times 1 is 5, divided by 5 is a 1, and then I'm just carrying down the FK. So it's okay to keep the 1 there, but 1 times FK, I'm going to rewrite this, 5D equals, is just FK. All right, so we are solving for F. Do you see how F is being multiplied by a K? So think operations. I just said multiplication. To solve, we're going to use division. We're going to divide by K on both sides. K divided by K is 1. And we got that F by itself. F equals 5D divided by K. All right, did we make it to our last problem? Look at all these words. We got this though. All right, number 11. The calorie count of a serving of food can be computed based on its composition of carbohydrate, fat, and protein. The calorie count C for a serving of food can be computed using the formula C equals 7H plus 13F plus 6P, where H is the number of grams of carbohydrate contained in the serving, F is the number of grams of fat contained in the serving, and P is the number of grams of protein contained in the serving. Solve the formula for F, the number of grams of fat contained in a serving of food. This might be the wordiest word problem I've ever seen. They explained every single variable with like 20 words. So let's break it down. Let's filter out what we don't need and focus on what we do need to answer the question. What are they asking us to do? It says solve the formula for F. All of this is just explaining what F is, but we're going to solve the formula for F. So if we look at all of this stuff up here, where's the formula? Well, here's the formula right here. We're going to take this, and all we have to do is solve it for F, and I'm not going to worry about the rest of. I'm filtering out the rest of the problem. So I'm going to rewrite that. We have C equals 7H plus 13F plus 6P. And it says to solve the formula for F. So here's our F right here. So if we think through our steps to solve for the F, do you see how F is being multiplied by 13? So I know I'm going to have to divide by 13. I can also see that we're adding a 6P, so we'll have to subtract a 6P. Over here, we're adding a 7H, and we'll have to subtract a 7H. So when you can recognize that there are multiple operations that you have to undo to solve, and you're not sure where to start, write out PEMDAS. You know our order of operations. Just write that out on the side of your paper. When you guys simplify, we start at the top and we work our way down. Parentheses, exponents, we multiply, divide left to right, and we add and subtract left to right. When you're solving an equation, we follow PEMDAS, but backwards from the bottom up. So we're going to solve, we start with any addition or subtraction. Those are our first solving steps. So this, see how we were adding a 7H? We're going to subtract 7H from both sides. 7H minus 7H is 0. I'm going to rewrite the problem. We have our C, by the way, C and 7H are not like terms, so I can't put those together into one term. We just write them side by side. C minus 7H equals, we have our 13F plus 6P. We're still trying to solve for F. We have our multiplication, which when we get to this step of simplifying from the bottom up, we'll take care of that. But we have another addition. So we're still on this addition and subtraction step. So plus 6p, we're going to subtract 6p from both sides. 6p minus 6p is 0. Now, when we subtract 6p over here, 6p is not a like term with the c or the 7h, so we're just going to rewrite them all side by side by side. We have c minus 7h minus 6p equals 13f. All right, there's that f we're still solving for. Now that we have completed all of our addition and subtraction, we get to move on to multiplying and divide. So there's multiplication right here. F is being multiplied by 13, so we want to divide by 13. Now on this left side, there's kind of a lot going on. So what do we divide by 13? We actually will divide the entire side by 13. We can do it in one big step like that. 13 divided by 13 is 1. So see how we got the F alone? F equals, and our final answer, C minus 7H minus 6P, all divided by 13. And we have solved the formula for F.